Continuing our series of lectures on the perfect essay series, here is the perfect body. Last time we talked about the perfect intro, and now is the perfect body. This time we're going to talk about the FRQ 2004 for AP Lang on nude statues. Here we go. The evidence and commentary section is the section we'll be discussing primarily. There are three sections. The first one is the thesis, for which you can earn up to 1 point. There is the evidence and commentary, for which you can earn up to 4 points. And there is the sophistication category, which you can also earn up to 1 point. So 1 4 1. Okay, let's talk about the evidence and commentary. We'll start first with a 4, so that you understand what a 4 looks like. An essay that receives 4 points in the evidence and commentary section, which primarily takes place in the body of the essay, receives the 4 points because they reference the text with quotations and paraphrases that are relevant to the thesis. The commentary is well developed. The connection between the evidence and the thesis is clear, insightful, analytical, and most importantly, these essays that make compelling connections between the writer's rhetorical choices and the effect that those choices have on the purpose of the text or contributing to creating the purpose of the text. Without this, you don't get a 4. The point of a rhetorical analysis body paragraph is to substantiate a claim. The claim you made at the beginning, which is this writer is trying to accomplish A by using B and C. So, whatever rhetorical choices you are going to look at, maybe there's syntax, maybe there's word choice, maybe there's tone, maybe there's an appeal, right? Whatever it is you're going to talk about, you have to discuss it and connect it to the purpose of the text. That's how you get a 4 here. Very simple. Very simple. Now, let's go back to the beginning. To get a 1, we're not going to bother with this one. To get a 1, you have to summarize the text and offer very little commentary. That's it. There's no strategies, there's no devices. It's just, I read the text and here's what the text did. Great, that's awesome, right? But this is a writing exam, not a reading exam. So we don't necessarily want to know how well you can read, although that's important for writing the response. But we want to know that you are able to understand the rhetorical choices at play and write about them, comment on them, analyze them. Okay, to get a 2, I think of the 2 as a 1, but a little bit more. And I think that's an important distinction. 1 and 2 are very much related. 1 is a summary with little to no commentary. Actually, no commentary at all. A 2, it's a summary with a little more commentary. That's it. That's essentially what it feels like. It is repetitive, right? It is either not relevant to the thesis or very loosely connected to the thesis, underdeveloped, not convincing at all. It lacks evidence, right? A 1 and 2 could also be when you have one body paragraph as opposed to two, which is the customary amount for a rhetorical analysis essay. So a 3 and a 4 are also related. So while the 1 and the 2 are seen as the 2 is just the 1, but with a little bit more, the 3 and the 4 is the other way around. A, a 3 is what the 4 could have been. So if the 4 has references to the text, um, has paraphrases that are relevant to the thesis, connects the rhetorical choices to the purpose of the text. It engages, it is elaborate, it is insightful, it is clear. If that's what a 4 is, that's a 3 is that, but less, essentially, right? They do have quotations and paraphrases that are relevant to the thesis, but they may not do it as often, right? They provide commentary that is related to provides evidence to the thesis, but it is partial or narrow or incomplete. Some parts of the essay are insightful as opposed to most of it being insightful. There's minor mistakes, right? But the development of the examples is only adequate, not exceptional or not effective, right? So it is clear, but sometimes it lacks an analysis. So that's what a 3 is. A 3 is what could have been a 4, right? It's a 4, but with a little bit less. All right, so let's look at this body paragraph. I will say we are not looking at two body paragraphs. We're looking at only at one body paragraph. And the assumption that I'm making is I gave a 4 to both, to the entire section of evidence and commentary, but I'm only using one body to explain why I gave it a 4. I'm not using two bodies, right? So why does this body get a 4? Pause the video, look at it, read it to yourself. I'll explain the parts coming up. Context and summary. A good body paragraph, a good paragraph that has evidence and commentary needs to provide context for the information and provide a summary of the text being analyzed, right? You have to anchor your analysis in something. And summary is important, but it is only only when necessary. It should not overwhelm the the totality of the text. So context in red, summary in purple. So redefining the argument from one of values to another practical solutions. Here there's some context to the essay. Now I know why the writer uses the strategy of definition to situate the problem, right? And what does this do overall in the text? Well, it positions himself as an arbiter of the argument and paves the way for his later solution to have increased validity. Validity. Okay. Providing this brief summary of the text lets me know that you understand fully what's happening in the text. Then again, he takes an objective view of the issue from the first paragraph. That's context, right? And then he tells me that moralists are depicted as reactionists who fear the grave harm of public nudity of any form, while art connoisseurs are characterized as frustrated savants with scornful opinions. It's a very, very highly stylistic summary, but it is a summary. And this is good. Now I know what the issue is. The moralists are depicted as this, and the art connoisseurs are depicted as that. Now I know what the summary of the conversation is in that text. And for those who haven't read the nude statues essay, essentially, it is a writer arguing for the inclusion of, well, somewhat obscene, well, he doesn't consider it obscene, art, uh, even at the expense of moral value. And the way he compromises is the compromises the issue is to say find a separate room like they do in libraries. Okay, to host the art pieces. So make it clear that this isn't the first time censorship has been debated. This is part of the context as well, and then summary. Now, something else that this body paragraph has, and well, the totality of the body paragraphs also had it, is it's very aware of the purpose of the text. Without purpose, you really have nothing. The whole point of the rhetorical analysis essay is to evaluate the purpose of the text and what choices, what rhetorical strategies the writer uses to prove that purpose. That's it. So here she tells me that the writer situates the problem practically. Okay, that's part of the purpose. Brings the argument to the center. I think it would make more sense if I read what came before. Utilizing heavy phrasing, and this is part of the devices, to imply the irrationality and radical nature of viewing the issue as a clash between morals and art. The writer employs phrases such as universally admitted and practical grounds. And here we get uh, uh, quotations from the text and that prove the device being talked about, which is the word choice, right, or language. And here's what the writer's trying to do: bring the argument to a center, or at least his center. And this is important because it had been talked about previously in this body paragraph, how he redefines the center of the conversation so that he can present a solution and define his simple solution, which is what he says later on. Now, devices. Okay, so we're talking about devices. A good rhetorical analysis essay has a lot of devices, or rather, it is aware of the devices present in the text. Now, look at how many times this writer presents devices. She notices the diction, the neutralizing of language, talking about how they are depicted, in which case would be like characterization and then characterize. The heavy phrasing, phrases, analogy, then a comparison. This writer is very aware of devices altogether. The writer uses harsh diction to describe the polarized view, neutralizing his language when he arrives at a comprehensive solution. The moralists are depicted as reactionists, characterized. It's very aware of devices, and it's also very aware of the strategies within the devices. Redefining the argument from one of values to another practical solutions. The writer uses a strategy of definition. Now, this strategy, it is always best when there's an overall strategy to the body paragraph. So here will be definition, which is why later you see something about painting it in a different light, which is also about definition or redefining the issue. So her focus here is very much about redefinition, and the devices she uses are depiction, diction, language, phrasing, right? And then the comparison, contrast. So the two have to be related, the strategies and devices. And here she does it really well. There's also there's a summary, there's paraphrasing, there's quotation. A good rhetorical text essay in response to a text should probably use all three types of references. If you only quote, then that's all you can do, at least based on what I see. I can only evaluate you based on what you show me. And if you quote only, then that's all I know you can do, right? So here, when she says that the first paragraphs do this and do that, I get a kind of um, sort of a paraphrasing what happens at the beginning. Then here I get a summary of what happens or how the moralists and the art connoisseurs are described. Then I get some quotations here sprinkled in between. And then there's the third and fifth paragraphs again, which are kind of quick paraphrasings. So I think what also makes this body paragraph stand out is the personality that it has. It is written from perspective of a mature writer. So here she says, from one of values to another of practical solutions, the redefining the argument from one of values to another practical solutions. That's a nice turn phrase. Neutralizing his language, depicted as reactionist. The text doesn't use the word reactionist. Here the writer decides to use this word to characterize how they're being portrayed. And it's true and very interesting. Frustrated savants. That's a neat phrase. Bring the argument to the center, at least his center. There's personality here. Demystifying the issue, a simpler light people can relate to. This essay has personality and in turn denotes mastery of language. All right, here's the body paragraph. Take a last look at it. Pause the video if you want. Read it again. This is how to write the perfect body. Okay.